Today I'm going to work on a project that I kind of had in the back of my mind for a little while now. It's a DIY, as cheap as possible, uh, indoor garage sauna. And it's going to be built out of 2x4s and some regular insulation, bat insulation, and some really thin sheeting. And here is the prototype I've been using for a while now. This is actually a weight rack that I bought to do strength training with, and then I wound up buying some quilts really cheap. Slickdeals.net always has cheap stuff, so I managed to get these quilts. And then what I did was I've got two separate 20 amp circuits in my garage, and I set up a camp chair in here and two 1500 watt space heaters, along with four, you can see them, heat lamps came from Wilco for warming chickens. And so with two 20 amp circuits on 120 volt, I can run all those and get it. I think when I was actually had a thermometer in there, I was getting around 140 degrees. I can sit in there probably about 30-40 minutes before I get really too hot and have to kind of vent a little bit or turn stuff down. But so that works pretty well. It's a little bit of an energy hog. So what I'm going to do now is construct a sauna. This is about $300 worth of materials with the screws. I got another roll of R15. I went with the batted, or the faced insulation, and then I need to go pick up some foil vapor barrier or radiant barrier. And then this is what I got marked out for the new sauna. It's going to be about 6 feet tall. I think it's like 40 by 48. I don't have a lot of room in my garage, and I have no room in my house for a sauna. I have a very supportive wife who is letting me do this, but she would definitely not let me do it in the garage or in the house. So this is what I got, and basically going to be the same setup. You can see the Harbor Freight heavy duty extension cord coming out of one of those 20 amp circuits, and then there's another one that comes out right on the other wall over there. So I'm hoping to get, with everything insulated actually and sealed up pretty well, I'm hoping to knock it down to just needing one of those, and maybe not those heat lamps and stuff. My idea with the heat lamps was going for some infrared sauna, but I don't really know if that does anything. But it does make it hotter. So, and I couldn't get another full 1500 watt circuit or space heater on there. So this is what we got. I'm going to frame it up with these 2x4 by 12 feet because they're only going to be 6 feet tall. So I just going to cut them all in half pretty much. This is what I'm going to use for the floor. It's just rubber horse stall mat. I was using it again for strength training, but it's kind of just a good flooring. Again, Wilco, I think they're $30 or so for like a 4 by 6 foot sheet of it, and it drains really well, and I imagine it'll insulate pretty well. So I got all the materials unloaded. I'm going to try to track time and stuff. I got about $300 into these materials, plus probably another $100 in the space heaters and flooring and the chicken lights and stuff. So we'll see how this goes. I am not a carpenter or a framer by any means, and so I'm sure I will make some bad cuts and need some more pieces, but we'll see. This is the sheeting. I don't think you really actually need sheeting, but if you want it to look okay. So this is more an aesthetic mod, but it's just this really thin 1/8 inch plywood interior stuff. I didn't go with full plywood because, again, I don't think it's not like it's supporting anything, and I don't really need sheeting. It's more just to cover up the insulation and stuff so it doesn't look so bad. Anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks to my wife for letting me do this. So we'll see how it goes. This is the plan view of the framing for the sauna. It's kind of what I came up for the dimensions. That's enough room to get the chair in there, and I'll probably round it off to like 40 by 48. You can see the corners I framed a little non-standard, trying to get the most out of the insulation possible, making sure there's not any gaps and things. It'll be a little interesting. I'm probably going to actually try to just put each wall together on its own and then somehow fasten them all together once they're kind of complete, so the sheeting and stuff will be all in one wall piece, I guess. We'll see how that goes. But this is the current plan. I'm sure it'll change, but that's about the dimensions. And then I got 15-inch bats, so I got the 2x4s on 16-inch centers. Could have went with 2x6s with a little thicker insulation, but I'm already constrained by space, and I figure this will be a lot better than some quilt comforter things hung over a weight rack anyway, so it should be fine. Maybe not overkill, but probably about right. So anyway, update number 1. Here is the footprint. So those are the 4 walls. I just cut them all like that. I'm going to frame up the wall, each wall section, and then stand them all up and screw them together. See how that goes. This is one of the short walls, the one without the door in it, I think. I had to put that extra 2x4 in there just to make the spacing for the insulation work. I suppose if it was a little wider, it wouldn't look as funny. I think that gap I might fill with spray foam, but it's going to be behind some other 2x4s anyway. So I don't think that gap really is going to affect the insulation too much, because I'm going to wind up sealing the whole inside anyway. So I probably will just leave it. I don't really want spray foam in here necessarily. I'm trying to keep it fairly non-toxic. So I'm working on the door. It's going to be pretty skinny, but one thing I realized when I drafted this up, that when it swings out, it's going to have a little bit cut off so that it can make the arc through there and then still seal up on the front edge. And so what I think this will work. I wound up cutting just a real shallow angle on there, and so when this fits up, this 2x4 will actually be kind of angled and should be able to swing through that arc, making the door, and then this will be the outside edge that'll fit up there and hopefully seal up pretty well. So we'll see. I've got stuff shaping up here. Kind of see how the door is going to work. You can't pull it out all the way because I need some hinges. Currently got it hinged just with some screws. But it looks like it's going to come together. I'm going to take it apart into walls and put the sheeting on the... Actually, I need to go to the store and get some radiant barrier, because I'm going to put that on the inside and then the sheeting, and then I'll put the insulation and everything behind that, obviously, and then sheet the outside, put some hinges on the door, and I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do the ceiling insulation. I figure I'll find some way to make some 2x4s work and get some good insulation there, and I won't have any on the floor. It'll just be the concrete garage floor with the rubber mat, because I don't want sweat and stuff getting down in there. Anyway, into some sort of floor setup. So that's it. Got a little bit more work to do though. This is the short wall, or one of the shorter walls. I got the insulation stapled in. Fits pretty nice. And then I found this 48-inch roll of Reflectix, which I'm going to use as the vapor barrier slash radiant reflector. Keep the heat in a little bit more. It was nice that it's this width because I won't have so much sealing to do. I did get some foil tape, some weather stripping, because I don't think I'm going to have quite enough to get all the 4 walls and then the ceiling too. I've put the craft paper, or the faced side, it'll go towards the inside, and then this will be on the inside, and then I cut a sheet of this stuff that I'm going to then screw on top of all of that, and I'm going to do that for all 4 walls, and then stand them up and screw them together, and then put the outside facing on, and we'll see how that all looks. This will give you a better idea how the radiant barrier went on, and I kind of decided this is how I do the door, just a single sheet of the barrier. It's going to be hard to see in here. Let me turn on the light. So it's a single sheet. I just stapled it. This actually wraps around and is all pretty well sealed up in here now. And then when the door closes, there's enough slack here in this kind of hinge. That was my way of making a single complete barrier on the door. And it fits pretty tight. It's kind of got a little extra around all the edges, so those fill the gaps. And I think I need to put a pull on the inside to really pull it shut, and then I just bought these utility hinges, so it seems to work pretty well. That's the box there. I still need to do the ceiling or the roof. I'm definitely over 8 hours into this at this point. It's taken obviously a lot longer than I would have hoped, but this is coming along. Here is the final result. It's quite a bit bigger than I kind of imagined, but it turned out all right. Thought about doing some trim here to cover that up, but it is what it is. There's the 2 heat lamps. I got them just kind of running to show. Got a camp chair. I went with the camp chair. I think it's just generally more comfortable and potentially replaceable. So with that, you can see there's a little tiny space heater, 1500 watt heater. Just have the extension cord coming through here. I cut a little hole out right here, or with the hole saw, I guess, and or an auger bit, and just went straight through. I taped it up underneath. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll probably do it a little bit better. And then the extension cord just runs back here, and it's actually just plugged in. You can't see back there, but it's just plugged in back there, right behind there. So it's kind of cheapest way to get some heat and power in there. You can see how I've got the radiant barrier around the door here. I actually was using this little hook to pull the door closed. I'll probably put a couple pulls actually at the top and bottom so that I can get it closed up. Yeah, and everything's just plugged in. It is about as small as you would want. I don't think I'd want it any shorter. I'm 6'2", so getting in is I have to duck and cram through this tiny doorway, and then there's just enough room for this chair and my feet in there. So I don't think this thing, I think it wound up being, it's 48 inches by about a little over 40 inches. And I can't imagine it getting much smaller for a single person sauna, unless you're going to stand in it or something. So, which I wouldn't want to do for an extended amount of time. But it does the trick. In my previous sauna, I had 2 space heaters and 2 of these heat lamps in there. And a lot of times I wouldn't get that hot. I mean, it was hot, but if it was really cold in the garage, it would be pretty tough to get up to like real sauna temperature. And last night I tried this out with just the one space heater and 2 lights, and it was heated up to almost uncomfortable in about 15 minutes. Had to turn off a light, and then I started adjusting the space heater. And you know, it's with it being all sealed up a lot more than my quilt comforter style one. It was a lot more like a sauna. This paneling's got like the wood smell, and I mean like a kind of a real sauna. It's got the wood smell, and then it was a lot stuffier. There was not as much air circulation, and so the humidity got higher, and it just felt hotter. I think I was sweating a lot more in general, and it just kind of felt more like a sauna, a real sauna, than what I had before. I calculated out all the material prices, and it's even with the chair, the extension cord, the heaters and lamps, and the rubber mat here, was all under, it was about $450, and lumber's expensive these days, so you know, I kind of figure that's really not that bad. I was looking at other people's DIY cheap saunas, and I think, you know, for something like this and about 8 to 10 hours of work, you get a lot of bang for your buck out of this design. So I hope you enjoyed the video and appreciate the views, and let me know if you have any questions. It was interesting. I'm all about efficiency and value, and I think I really got the most out of this one that I can. You can see our car barely fits in here, and still able to get the door open. So it's pretty much got no more room. My next project is to try to figure out how to cram in a fold-up strength training system in this little spot right here. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's going to work, but you never know. So thanks again. It was getting pretty late when I finally got this ceiling in, so I didn't get a good video of how I did it, but I figured I'd just kind of give a heads up. I probably would have oriented it actually 90 degrees to how I did it if I had another shot at it. But basically I ran stringers across both ends back there, and then right here at the door side. And then I had 2 more stringers that went across, and I just kind of pressure fit them in, cut them so that they were pushing against both ends, and crammed them in there. And then I put a couple screws in just to make sure they stayed where they were, and then pressed the insulation up under there, and then got the radiant vapor barrier underneath that, and then screwed paneling on top of it. And by the time I got to this point, I had made, I think, 1 too many bad cuts and needed to split this one panel. So I wound up with 1 split panel, but I don't think I'm ever going to be looking at the ceiling that close anymore anyway. So everything's sealed up under there. It is what it is. And then on top, you can't really see it, but I haven't put all this down yet, but or screwed it down, fastened it down, but I just have that laying on top right now. It's going to be pretty hard for me to get under the whole thing because I have this other shelf that's sitting on top of it at this point. So this whole thing, I mean, barely crammed in under this other shelf that I had already installed. So it's like somehow I either got really lucky or I had this laid out just perfect. The floor is not necessarily level in here. It slopes towards the garage door to drain, I assume. So this isn't quite level, but it's level enough. Anyway, that's how I did the ceiling. Basically the same as all the walls, except instead of like a standard framing where this would be above the wall, this was all inset into there. So I kind of dropped the ceiling a little bit, but that was fine with me. I think it gets a better seal potentially here. You can see I had to cut this because when you close the door, the fold was getting pinched in here. But yeah, I think if I run some weather stripping around this whole edge, if I really want to get it sealed up, I think I could do that too. So anyway, That's it.